So what happens? What happens when the most powerful office in the world decides to declare war on an idea? You might think that labeling a group a terrorist organization is about fighting real threats, right? About taking apart networks with clear leaders and members you can identify. But what happens when the target is not a group at all? What happens when it is a set of beliefs? What happens when the President of the United States points a finger at a concept and calls it a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster? This is not just political show, so is it a dangerous step? Yes. It is a move that threatens the very core of American protest and free speech. The term Antifa itself, what does it even mean? It is short for anti-fascists. It describes a loose movement of people. It is not an organization with a clear structure of leaders, a list of members, and a P.O. box. It is a general term for activist groups that stand against fascism and neo-Nazis. And yet, in a move that has confused legal experts and alarmed supporters of civil liberties, Donald Trump announced plans to label Antifa as a major terrorist organization. This talk grew worse during a state visit to the United Kingdom. And how did it come out? Through a social media post where he said, "I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization." He even pushed for investigations into who funds the group. But how can you give money to an idea? The immediate legal questions are obvious, are they not? The United States State Department has, in the past, used all 219 of its terrorist labels for foreign groups, not groups from inside the country. There is simply no current legal way for labeling a domestic group a terrorist organization. Even the FBI director who worked for Trump, Christopher Wray, said in his testimony in 2020 that Antifa is a set of beliefs, not an organization. Does this fact alone not make a formal label a problem? It seems impossible under the current law. Can you imagine trying to arrest the leaders of anti-fascism or trying to raid the headquarters of an idea? It is, of course, ridiculous. But the danger here is about more than just legal details. Is this about stopping people from speaking out? Yes. Is this about creating a chilling effect on the First Amendment? Absolutely. If being anti-fascist is enough to label you a terrorist, then what protest, what critique of the government is safe? As one smart observer noted, if you are on the left, if you are truly American, then by your very nature you are anti-fascist. And because of that, by the definition from Trump, you are Antifa. It is not a group you join, it is a principle you live by. Think about it. If you call bikers terrorists just because they ride a motorcycle, you make a whole identity a crime. Here, he is trying to make a whole set of beliefs a crime. And what about the distraction? This attempt to label Antifa as a terrorist group also serves to move our focus away from the real sources of political violence in America. When you look at political violence, who is carrying it out? It is almost entirely carried out by the right wing. Yet, it is Antifa that gets the anger from the president. This is a classic move, a new Red Scare where speaking out is turned into a weapon and called dangerous. It is a show aimed directly at crushing freedom of speech. So if he is afraid of anti-fascists, is he not once again admitting that he is a fascist? And let us be clear about the hypocrisy here. While Antifa is picked out, what about the real organized domestic terrorist groups? The ones with a clear history of violence and hate? What about the KKK and the neo-Nazi party? They have operated for many years as domestic threats, but no such actions have been taken against them. It makes you wonder, what is the real reason? The stakes are incredibly high. If a president can, on a whim, label a loose set of beliefs as a terrorist organization, what happens next? It means any protest, any gathering of citizens that challenges the government could suddenly be called Antifa, and from there, be called terrorist. The freedom to speak out, to organize, and to protest, all of it is put at risk. The Guardian, a well-known publication, gave us important information about this confusing situation. The newspaper reported that Donald Trump said early on Thursday that he plans to label Antifa as a major terrorist organization. The Guardian then explained that Antifa, short for anti-fascists, is a general term for far left-leaning activist groups and is not one single group. These are groups that stand against fascists and neo-Nazis, especially at demonstrations. So, how would the administration even do it? How would they label what is really a scattered movement as a terrorist organization? The White House on Wednesday did not offer more details. The U.S. president, who was on a state visit to the United Kingdom, made the announcement in a social media post. He called Antifa a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster. He also said he will be strongly recommending that people who give money to Antifa be investigated. The Guardian article then pointed out a key legal point. Antifa is a domestic group. Because of this, it is not a choice for the State Department list of foreign terror organizations. Dozens of groups, such as extreme organizations like the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, are included on that list. The label matters in part because it allows the Justice Department to go after those who give material support to groups on that list, even if that support does not lead to violence. Is there a domestic version of that list? No. This is partly because of broad First Amendment protections for organizations that operate inside the United States. And even with calls to create a domestic terrorism law, especially after mass shootings by white supremacists, no single law for it exists now. The Guardian also told the story of a talk with reporters in the Oval Office on Monday. In that talk, Trump said he would seek a domestic terrorism label for Antifa if Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, and others in his cabinet supported it. Trump said, "It is something I would do, yeah?" He continued, "I would do that 100%. Antifa is terrible." This wish for a domestic terrorism label is not new. In July of 2019, Cassidy and Ted Cruz, a Texas Republican senator, put forward a resolution in the Senate. It was to condemn the violent acts of Antifa and to label the group a domestic terror organization. In 2020, during the George Floyd protests, Trump also brought up the idea of labeling Antifa as a terrorist organization. And what did the former FBI director Christopher Wray say? In testimony that year, he said that Antifa is a set of beliefs, not an organization. He said it lacks the clear structure of leaders that would usually allow it to be labeled as a terror group by the federal government. So is this just a political move? No, it is more than that. It is a deep threat to civil liberties. It is an attempt to use language as a weapon to crush dissent. When a president declares war on an idea, he declares war on the very freedom to think and to speak. We must remain watchful. We must understand that if we allow the government to label a belief system as terrorism, then the door is open for them to label any opposition as such. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more deep analysis, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on this situation. Truth never rests, defiance till the end.